I guess I'll call this one to order. We have the meeting minutes from March 11th. Wendy, any changes, comments, updates for that one?
Nope.
All right, those will stand. All right, and we've got, and I don't think Eric will mind if we press ahead with these two. We've got two classification work items to talk about. First is the Parks Facility Maintenance Tech. So, Tom, Orlando, Maria, you guys want to go ahead there?
Sure. Yeah, but why don't I maybe just start quickly, and then I'll let Tom and Orlando fill in. So you may recall that we have the position for parks that was part of the adopted budget for the upcoming fiscal year, and that we wanted this position to be a bit more of a skilled position in terms of being able to perform maintenance and facility repairs to the parks infrastructure. So Orlando and Tom, I think, did a really nice job of putting together a job description. The union was provided a copy of the classification and the proposed pay grade back towards the end of May. And as of yesterday, there were just two very, very small changes to the job description we had provided in the packet. One is around performing equipment repairs. We just modeled some language that we had off of an existing job description and put that in. And then I think it was under essential job functions, third to last bullet, in the absence of the park superintendent, parks foreman, that we might supervise somebody as needed. If that were to occur, we just decided we would it would probably be unlikely, but if it were to occur, probably just do a temporary upgrade for the person in that circumstance. So we just struck that particular sentence. Tom and Orlando, did you guys just want to talk a little bit more about what the person would be doing in regards to this job description?
Sure. Sure. I mean, it's good. I think you did a good job of the high level overview. We are going to be looking at a lot of, once we get caught up on things, this position focusing on preventive maintenance, so that we're not always playing catch up on things. It'll take about a year or two to get there at this point, but that's eventually where we see it going. And as we continue to add facilities, it'll help us stay on top of things a little bit better. But it's just another piece to the puzzle to get where we really want to be at this point. Orlando, you want to add anything?
Yeah, there's just some areas that we just, as the department, have to do a better job at, in protecting the town and the users of our facilities. And I think this position is going to do that. We have areas like playground inspections. We should be doing playground inspections on a bi-weekly basis, especially over at Iron Horse, the Rotary Park. We're lucky if we get to our playground inspections every month, which again is a liability to the town. Park inspections. We got to make sure that our parks are safe for the users of our facilities, and this position is going to help with us accomplishing those tasks that need to get done.
Okay. Appreciate that. Wendy, any questions on your?
Yeah, I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
So when we did the budget and approved this position, there was talk about whether we were going to try to get a more entry-level person versus a more experienced person. So the question on the T7 grade, where does that fall as far as, what the person coming in is?
It's above our. We have three positions below in that union right now. It's a maintainer 1, which is entry level. Maintainer 2 has some experience, and our parks mechanic, which is on the same level as this proposed position. And we really feel like this is a complement to the level of work that our mechanic is doing on the vehicles and existing mechanical systems that we have now. So the additional positions in that department that are not in this union are the parks foreman and Orlando's position, the park superintendent. So it's not really an entry level. We are looking for some previous skilled previous, I guess, skills that would have been developed elsewhere. Maybe even getting a retired tradesman if that's something that we feel presents itself to us well. But it is not an entry level position.
Okay.
This is kind of like a department.
Yeah, Wendy, it is a higher level position because there is some qualifications that will be needed, like irrigation repair work, pump repair work, that you need someone with some technical background that would need. Typically, you would have that with like a technical school or 3 to 5 years experience. So that's where that little higher level and position comes in.
Okay, and the reason I asked that was because the required minimum qualifications just said 3 years. So I didn't know if, 3 years qualified as this level. But that's just your entry point of anybody you consider right now, correct? Okay,
That's correct.
okay, thank you.
And we also, we did budget T7 during the budget process. We might get somebody in that range. So there's that range of $27.43 an hour to $33.70 for an hour for the upcoming fiscal year. So again, depending on somebody's qualifications and experience, we might, hire someone within that range. But the T7 we had budgeted for during the budget process, so we should be okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I have no questions. So to that end, we'll need a motion effective June 10th, 2021 to endorse the creation of a position classification of facility maintenance tech and the job description and pay grade as presented. And I'm going to further move to recommend the proposed classification be forwarded to the full Board of Selectmen for approval.
Okay, so I'll move that.
And I'll second it.
It's like
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, so that passes. Thank you, guys.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
guys. Have a good morning.
You
Thank
too.
you, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for coming in.
Bye.
Enjoy the day.
Too,
as
thank
well.
you.
So on the agenda, we have another position, right?
Yeah, the construction inspector, we were really close to finishing it up, but we just have one more item left that Tom Roy and I are taking a look at. So probably next time.
Okay. All right, so we'll move to the personnel rules updates, the vacation accrual carryover process and dates.
Yes. So you may recall that we had started to move our workforce to a November 1st date for carry forwards as opposed to July 1st. That was something we put in the AFSCME contract and the dispatcher's contract. We were finding logistically it was very difficult having the forfeiture reset date on July 1st because in New England our summers are short and that is when people tend to take time off. So shifting to November 1st, just to sort of make that a bit easier for our employees to take time off and manage their time. And then additionally, there was this sort of administrative burden of folks having to fill out a form for their 10 days that they were allowed to carry forward that we're just making automatic. And then also that any extenuating circumstances would be approved by me. And so what we were doing here essentially is just looking to make that change for our 11 or so non-union staff that we have, just to make that practice consistent with what we are migrating the rest of the workforce to. So what we've also done is on page, it's page 10 of your packet. It shows the current language and the personnel rules. And then the proposed replacement language. The first paragraph reflects what we are doing again for AFSCME and dispatchers. And then the second paragraph is just something we've added for clarification. It's similar to the practice that we've been using that, if somebody did have something approved above and beyond for extenuating circumstances, that, right, we're not paying that out upon their separation from service, and that they also have to have a plan to use that bit of excess up in a timely manner. So we would just like to implement that for those 11 or so non-union staff members.
I'll open it up. Wendy, questions?
My dog was barking. So there's a typo in the first section 9. It's not the first selectman, it's the first. And so I see that we're just carrying the policy for the union members to the town members, but can you just quickly summarize the 10 carryover days again for me? So you can carry, so say you get 20 vacation days a year, right? And it's in a fiscal year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, depending on somebody's date of hire, that's going to be moving a little bit, but generally it's within a 12-month period.
So Sean knows where I'm going because I'm thinking travelers, you can carry over 5 days every year, but you can't carry over more than 5 days. And then you can't carry those carryover days. So I'm just trying to equate this to, you guys can carry over 10 days versus the 5, right?
Right, our employees can do 10. Yep.
And that's been the policy for a long time.
Yeah.
I think a long time. I don't know how far back that goes, but I think it goes back a bit.
Okay, so then this is just extending when you can use your carryover days right,
Right,
so
we're changing
basically,
it November 1st instead of July 1st.
so basically if we were looking at travelers, you could carry over 5 days. You would get Sean Max would get 3 extra months to use those 5 days.
Exactly.
What we're saying.
I
Okay,
mean, at Travelers, I'm required to use them first.
well, that's true.
So, but I mean, again, it's all different because we have PTO versus sick leave versus,
Right.
so it's not apples to apples. But yeah, I mean, we've been granting a bunch of these, and I assume it will make it, as Maria said, it will just make it easier from an administrative standpoint. Is we basically rubber stamp these things. But for if they're in excess of the 10, those are the special circumstances, and it's just giving people the, basically through Labor Day and or Halloween to use them.
Yeah.
So, because I think people are losing their vacation days because they're in budget and in all process, and then everybody brings their head up, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I have 30 days to use my vacation. I have 30 days to use 10 days. And
Right, exactly. Between budget and winter plow season, and then, it's July 1st is just not terrific with our work schedule.
yeah,
So that's
so,
why
I mean, we're basically giving people, as you said, the entire summer to use their days. And again,
Yeah.
they don't get to accrue them for cash out if
Exactly.
there's separation of service. So there's really no exposure from a financial standpoint to the town.
Okay, and then they lose them if they don't use them by the 10th
Right.
November.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks for that.
No,
Yeah,
good clarification.
and we try really hard. We do send, gentle reminders quite a bit to folks about, don't forget to, use your time, here's your balances. We certainly don't want people to lose it, but.
It's just impractical, the 7-1, because of, what Maria described, but it's unfortunate because if you have a few days to use, maybe you planned your vacation, and I know of someone in the organization who's going to have to request carryover. He has time to use, and he has a vacation planned for either late July or August, and it's a shame that he would have to feel like he has to use them in June just to use them. It's
Right.
silly. And when he has a vacation coming up that he could apply them towards. So
Okay.
It's just a little bit more flexibility that's goodwill for our.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Just
Yeah, no, makes sense. Okay.
back to my corporate.
Yeah, no, I mean, this stuff's constantly evolving, so it's interesting.
Okay.
All right, so I would look for a motion effective June 10th, 2021 to endorse the proposed changes to the personnel rules and regulations vacation carryover section. And I would further ask for a motion to recommend that the changes be forwarded to the full Board of Selectmen for approval.
So moved.
Second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We can't be opposed, so we're good.
That's true.
All right. Eric is not here yet. So, Maria, what we would like to do here? Do you want to wait on this, see if he's going to come, start going? Because this is a meaty topic, so I don't want anybody to have to rehash it.
Yeah. Do you guys just want to skip ahead and take a look at the possible dates for the timeline for my review? Do you want to tackle that next?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
Okay.
I presume that is in line with prior years.
Yes. Yeah. So we went ahead and just sort of took a look again at meeting schedule, my vacation schedule, and came up with a tentative timeline to try and complete my performance review for the look back of, the fiscal year that just happened. And then we used the existing form, and I did just make one clarification on the existing form on page 1, where, Eric, as the personal subcommittee chair, has been working and preparing that review. So I just thought that, if that ever were to change in the future, maybe just clarify that. But otherwise, we've just updated the form. We did go ahead and under I'm just scrolling ahead. It's the goals section. We went ahead and put in the goals that you all had adopted for me for this current fiscal year that we're sitting in.
Yeah.
But otherwise, again, it's just the same format that we've been using. Wasn't sure if you guys, wanted to continue with that format. Just wanted to check in on the timeline, make sure everything looked okay before we started to proceed with coordinating that.
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
So One thing that I looked at the timeline, and I don't see anywhere if we do a peer review. So again, corporate, your direct reports do a review for you. And I was just wondering if that's something we plan to do, or if we could include in this, and when the last time we did one was.
So when you say peer review, you mean like a 360, like a feedback plan?
Yeah, from I used to get one from, colleague reviews. You could give it to 10 people or your HR director, or sometimes it was your direct reports would do it for you so that you get feedback from others. And that's what I used to go through. So I just didn't know. So 360 to you is what? Because we didn't call it 360.
Yeah, so to me, those are two different processes. One is the performance review that a boss gives to an employee, and the boss would seek feedback from whomever they needed to. And then the other, which you're describing to me, is a 360, where it's what we did with Maria, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
Actually, more recent. I think it was just last summer. I got the results of that, maybe mid-July or so. And we did my direct reports, as well as heads and division heads. Yeah, I think we had a sample size of maybe like 26 or 27 folks in the organization. So we just did that last summer.
Yeah, and that's typically, in my experience, that's used as a coaching tool. Not as a performance tool.
Okay. So did we see the results of that? And I don't remember seeing any results.
I can resend that to you. I think I shared that with you maybe sometime last summer, maybe August timeframe or so. I'll make a note to go back and look and resend that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, there was a lot. That one, there was a lot to that one.
Yeah.
So it was
really comprehensive.
Okay, that's just one thing that I was thinking would be a good add, is to either, if the Board of Selectmen can select, like as the governing body, select input from department heads to feed into, to give us a real 360 view for the appraisal process, and have that part of it going forward.
I mean, we can certainly consider that, but I'll tell you, it's atypical to get people's direct reports, in my experience, to comment on their boss's performance as part of the compensation performance process. It's very typical to get that as part of the coaching and feedback process. Mm-hmm. And those are two, to me, in my experience, when you very separate and distinct events. In my space, if I'm giving a performance review, I may talk to a peer of mine about a direct reports of mine experience on a project. But as far as going to that direct reports, it's a biased view, in that it's somebody's boss, and it's an important view, but it's a different view than what is typically, in my experience, than what's typically used for a performance discussion. Because the boss could be giving somebody bad news. Well, I hate my boss. Okay. But your boss gave you the feedback you needed to hear because you weren't doing your job, right? So that's a hard one. And if that stuff gets into a performance review, it clouds the objectivity of it. If we were looking at things like feedback from chairs of commissions or independent folks of the reporting chain, you've piqued my interest in that, but I think that should be, to what I think you mentioned a minute or two ago, our objective. If we want to get chairs' perspective or outside individuals' perspective that work with Maria on a regular basis as a peer, perhaps Missy, as an example, or the fire district, or the Farmington Valley Cooperative, or if we wanted to get feedback there, that might be something we can incorporate in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And with that too, I would say, having an outside facilitator is probably the best as well. And I think that was, for me, what was most helpful with the 360 review that we did last summer is that, having the outside facilitator and, folks could truly be anonymous, and it was aggregate data, right, that we were looking at. So I felt that that was helpful in terms of people being able to be, candid and provide honest responses. So I think that would be really, critical if we were to ever, do a 360 review from, say, direct reports and division heads again, or, perhaps from sort of, peers that I work with on a regular basis. I do think having the outside facilitator and the aggregate data helps people, I think, be candid and honest.
Yeah, and that's the other challenge is if we, hey, Melissa, what do you think of Maria's performance? That's a pretty challenging question for Melissa to answer, considering we're technically Maria's boss, but Maria is Melissa's boss, and we're putting the employees in a tough spot by asking those questions directly.
Exactly.
Yeah, we used to do it at Optum, and it was just input to the review process to either confirm maybe something you thought was happening or not happening. If it came from multiple people on the team, kind of pointed to something, and it was not, what's the word? Anonymous is the word, just the feedback, just to help round out the view. So
yeah. I think the mechanism for that, Wendy, is that 360 review that we do, but we have to typically pay for that.
Okay. Okay, so I'm fine with it as it is. I may mention that when we bring it to the board, right, to approve, and just say maybe that's something we consider doing as part of the annual review process, just to include some sort of other view. And after I see the 360, maybe I'll change my mind on that.
Yeah, no, I think your point is right, and we can talk about the cadence of that. Again, there's a lot of HR perspective on this, and by no means am I an HR professional, but when I've talked to my HR partners in various capacities, it's recommended that for growing leaders, every couple of years is when you would do the 360, because you need space for the improvement or the feedback, and then you reset, and then so it's there's I think a recommended cadence out there. I don't know what it is. It might be 24 months, it might be 36 months. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, Sean, so you said that. I was going to say probably about once every 2 to 3 years would probably be a good time frame. And again, it was really comprehensive too. So but I think probably if we wanted to do that, continue to do that in the future, maybe like once every 2 to 3 years.
Okay. I'll look for it. If I have it, I'll find it.
It's okay. You know what? I need to know. I'll see if I can locate the email easily, and I'll get that to you.
Okay. Last summer seemed to have
There was a lot going on.
Bit of a blur, right? Exactly.
It's a black hole. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
From my vantage point, these dates all track. I'm pleased to see that you're not submitting it to us on July 4th again, or Labor Day, like I think we had in prior years. So I think these dates are more respectful of your vacation or potential vacation. So, again, these are aspirational schedules. If we need to change them because a step needs more time, obviously we're going to do it thoughtfully and correct. But I think these sync up nicely, and then get us early enough in the fall where it's we're not getting into a new Board of Selectmen, obviously, or otherwise, because we would need to wrap this up before December, obviously, and this timeline puts us well ahead of that. So, all right, and Wendy, if there's more thoughts, or if the board has more thoughts, obviously we're going to share this. We can update this stuff as we go. But again, I think it's also important for us to be as consistent as we can year over year. And if we're going to make changes, make them, where they're appropriate. But so, Maria has the same baseline, that she's working off of.
I have to let my dog out of the room. Hold on.
Okay. No problem.
We're going to miss all these quirks of virtual meetings.
Yeah.
I'll bring him to town hall with me. So
There we go.
Bring the baby, you bring the dog.
It's a whole family affair.
I think it'd be good. We'll bring Max in. We'll have a party. Yeah. All right. So no actions needed on that, right, Maria? That's we're just going to
just consensus if the timeline looks good, and I'll make sure to include the timeline in the form in the upcoming packet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm reticent to do the comp without Eric. I think it's important that we have the first selectman's perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, we could always just have a quick meeting, before the June 28th Board of Selectmen meeting and tackle that if you guys want to do that.
Wendy, if that's okay with you, that's okay with me. I'd rather have the three of us vet that as we have in the past and just make sure that we've asked our questions and looked at it. If there's anything you want to put on the table now, Wendy, that these folks can get working on from a question standpoint.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
One is, hold on, I got to find it on my, so again, we are proposing a 3-year increase, right? Over the increase applies for each year. Is that what we're talking about? This one, right?
We went ahead and we did the analysis for 2 years, just because, we've got some good internal benchmark data now with some settled contracts and what we're seeing for settlement. And then we did also just a little off cycle, we just did those health insurance plan design changes in April of this year. So with all that in mind, we went ahead and we did the analysis for 2 years. Certainly if you prefer to just take it, 1 year at a time for this group, we can continue to do that. But we thought, we've got some good data and we just went ahead and did, sort of a 2-year analysis and what we thought would be reasonable if you guys would prefer to, just tackle, a 2-year chunk of time. But yes, yeah. So
yeah, that was the 3-year. I was thinking of the chart, but it's this coming year, which we've already approved this year's increase.
Exactly right. So, just so you can kind of visually that building exactly.
So that was my question. Why do we propose the given increase for the next year now, given that we don't know, where we will be next year as far as financially and. That was my question. Like, why we don't do that anywhere else other than in the union, in the municipal space, in the corporate space. Nobody tells you what you're going to get next year for your increase. So it seems like a disincentive. I'm not saying anything negative about anybody that works for the town, but I'm just saying I don't understand why we put that out there up front.
Sure. So again, I just, went ahead and did the analysis because it's such a small group of folks. We're, talking about 11 of our staff members out of, over 150 full-time people. So again, it's a really tiny group. And again, just based on what we were seeing with our settlement data for our internal union groups and settlement data statewide for what we're seeing for those out years, it was very, pretty easy for us while we were working through this analysis, just to tack on another year, see where we would land and how things would look. So the data's there, and again, if the preference is to just, tackle it again this time next year, we can certainly do that. But again, while we were crunching the numbers and with what we had available to us for information, it was easy for us to add on the analysis just to show for illustrative purposes. Yeah.
It was good to see that actually.
Yeah.
And then the other question I had on the chart, are the people that are at the proposed, which is equal to the maximum, versus those who the proposed is not equal to the maximum. Is it based on your experience in that role and grade?
Yeah, so for our non-union staff members, they don't actually have steps within the ranges. So that is a little different from our non-union staff. From our union staff, there are specific steps, within the range. And for our non-union staff, there are no steps within the range. It's just a range. And right, so for folks, it could be dependent upon things like where they were hired at the time of entry. And then we don't really have a merit, pool of money, if you will. While the GWI is attached to a satisfactory review, we don't have an additional merit. So, with union folks, they get steps until they reach the maximum of the range in addition to the GWI. But for our non-union folks, they don't have steps available to them when they are more junior in tenure. It's just the GWI for our non-union staff.
Okay. I was just looking at all the columns on that.
Yeah.
One.
So Wendy, just from the historical side, so those mins and maxes are, we've worked on those over the years a lot with Maria and some previously with Maria to go out and do the best analysis that can be done based on comparable positions. The problem is every town does it a little bit differently, so it's only so good what the comparables are.
Okay.
And we've made changes over those years to reflect those ranges. Sometimes when we hire somebody, sometimes when somebody's in that position. Sometimes when we create the position, we've done it. But just to reflect what you and I are more used to is the market range for a position in the corporate side. Where we diverge here, as you're picking up on from the corporate side, is there's generally not a GWI in the corporate space. It's generally all merit based. There's an average, but you can be at, above, or below the average. And the path that we've taken in town is that everybody has gotten the same. The first select persons of the past have had the opportunity to differentiate, and they've chosen not to. And this group has basically rubber stamped their recommendation.
Okay.
We've carried the same practice on with the town manager. So, and again, not suggesting it be done, but if Maria wanted to differentiate here, I would be open to that. But obviously it would need to match up with performance reviews, with feedback, with everything else. This is just a carry forward of our standard process, but again, it's something that can be changed in the future if somebody wants to.
Okay. And then the other question I had, this will give me background for when we meet the next time, is what happens. So you're guaranteed, the 2.35 is if you meet the qualifications and your job. What if you don't? Like, what do you guys do? Do you give a lesser increase? Do you give no increase? What's the practice?
Yeah. So if we do have an individual who does not have a satisfactory review, then we haven't awarded an increase.
Okay. And so if somebody gets an exceeds, right, on their appraisal and a meets, everybody still gets the same increase.
Yes. Yeah. Right. But if somebody were to get an unsatisfactory, then they wouldn't receive an increase. But if they were to get satisfactory or, an exceptional review, we're giving folks the same amount.
Okay. That's also different than the corporate.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was alluding to, right?
Yeah.
At PWIs, we have merit based. But again, it's again, because it's challenging in the municipal spaces, it's kind of like a company, it's kind of like a town with a country, so I'm fine with it being done this way, but there is an opportunity to do it another way if Maria and Eric and Melissa wanted to in the future as well.
Okay. Got it.
I haven't felt the need to mandate something different in the past because it's worked.
Well, and we have a good staff that we want to keep engaged. Yes. So, I mean, I understand that too.
Yeah. Yes. And because it's the department head level, these are the professionals. I mean, again, generally speaking, your leadership should be getting a raise every year if they're performing, and if they're not going to be leaders for very long. Is generally what happens, right? So,
yeah,
I'm asking for myself and anybody who happens to be listening this morning at 8:37 that works in the corporate space probably ask the same questions.
Oh yeah,
hey, our classification system does just work a little bit differently and in our public sector space. But 2 points that I do just want to point out. And there was actually an interesting article in the Current just very recently about this. I don't know if you all happened to see it, but it was an issue that had popped up at the state where the non-union staff was frequently getting forgotten about or left behind. And then, of course, the union contracts continued to be negotiated. Well, then the salaries of the subordinates, you had salary compression. So the salary of the subordinates exceeded that of the supervisors. And then there wasn't an incentive for people to take promotions. So that's always something, I'm cognizant of is that salary compression too, right? Between your top level leadership and their subordinates and making sure that there is some distance there. And then what's also interesting under MIRA is we have a very, very small number of staff that cannot be unionized. So even though 11, you think like, wow, that's such a small number, there are still people on this list that could choose to be unionized if they wanted to be. And so that's something I always keep in mind, as well, when we're kind of looking at compensation for these folks, as well as, in comparison to our union staff members.
Yeah, you made that point. I realized I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a balance. So
yeah,
again,
it is.
It's tough, and we can certainly, the good news is Winnie is I think we stay pretty tight with Maria and Eric and Melissa on this stuff. So if we need to adapt, I think we can. The vacation carryover, the benefits changes. We make, I think, good tweaks. We're transparent with the taxpayers, and we've got the flexibility to meet if we need to do something differently and sit down and plan that for budget time too. So. I'm okay with this. I would like to give Eric the courtesy of weighing in and having questions, but I think we can do that before we so we don't need to slow anything down, so we can, as you suggest, Maria, get together quickly on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We could maybe have a quick special meeting at the end of the month, because I do anticipate that the construction inspector job description would be ready, very soon as well. And we could, potentially do that in advance of the June 28th Board of Selectmen meeting. Or, we could even, if we needed to, tackle this at the July meeting and then just do, a brief, retro period for folks too. So I don't think there's any urgency to it. It's just, again, we were working on some other salary work and compensation work and wanted to kind of tackle this while we were working on it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll, I'll move that we table this one for a special meeting.
Do I have to second that?
I think so. Yeah.
Second.
All right. When we're in favor, aye. All right. So we're tabling that, and
my goals, I'm sorry, I was being optimistic and hoping to get to that for today, and it did not happen. So I will
that's
get you
okay.
that.
We'd be tabling that one too for Eric as well. So that's
Yes.
I think that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And are we all wearing orange but Maria?
Yeah. I didn't get to know about that today.
Yesterday was a blue day, and today's an orange day.
Okay, just noticed. So you can't see what Eric is wearing. So
You're very perceptive.
Yeah, Eric, what do you got?
You can't ask
he's
me.
probably in his
You can't ask me a professional that.
White.
no, boo. Okay.
Although I was wearing an orange bathing suit earlier this morning.
There you go.
Oh.
See, it's the day of orange.
Okay. All right, my friends. Well, that is the extent of our agenda. Thanks for everybody's time this morning. I will move we adjourn.
And I will second that.
And we're in favor. Thank you so much. Have a great
I'll
day,
see you
everybody.
tomorrow morning.
Bye, guys.
Right? Bye.
Yes, bye.